Hello everyone, this is 10K Vaults and I've got a quick little video guide that's just explaining how I use the Elgato StreamDeck for Final Fantasy XIV. I know the StreamDeck is designed for streaming, but it is an incredibly powerful piece of hardware that allows you to do so much on it. There's a lot of things and a lot of ways that you can quickly fill up all your hotbars in 14 just because of gear sets and emotes and mounts that you just want quick access to. And you can just move all of that over to your StreamDeck and make things much more simpler for you. So let me show you how that all works. So I'm on my machinist here. And say, for example, I just want to go on my dancer. There we go. Maybe go on my white mage, or maybe go on my scholar. What about a ninja? All these are just bound to buttons on my StreamDeck. And as you may or may not have noticed, it's actually just typing in the commands in chat and sending it that way. So rather than having everything set to a hotkey or an entire bar just dedicated to your common jobs, you can just do that via commands and not have to worry about occupying space that you could otherwise use for other things. So this is my main screen for the StreamDeck, and if I go into this folder here, here's where all my jobs reside. So we've got icons for each one of them to make it super useful. One of the great thing about 14 is you can basically get all the icons for every job, all the abilities, anything you possibly want is readily available. So they're very easy to obtain, and then you can just add those straight in as icons for your StreamDeck. The way that this actually works is if we go into here in our machinist, it's actually really simple. All it does is first thing, it presses the / key. In game, that will by default, it'll clear chat, it will put down a / key, and it will have chat active so you can then type out something afterwards. And that's perfect for us because then what we'll do afterwards is we'll then tell the multi-action to write a bunch of text, which will be the command that we actually want to execute. In this case, it's GS change for gear set change. And then the number, which for my machinist is assigned to gear set 1. And then it presses enter, then this final things will switch the profile back to the main screen, this one. Now, one thing that I've noticed for my setup in particular, I've done a little few changes with my StreamDeck to reduce the amount of inherent latency that's in the multi-action going through and executing each action. By default, there's like 200 to 300 milliseconds of delay between each action in your multi-action, which can add up quite quickly once you start getting like 5-6 more of them in there. I have linked what I've done in the description below to reduce that inherent latency to basically nothing. So it will just fire off the commands literally as fast as it can. But what this does mean is I will find that it may sometimes clip the command and not send the entire message. So it might only send GS change but not get around to putting in the number. So then Final Fantasy goes, well, okay, yes, you want to change gear sets, but you haven't told me which one you want to go to, so it does nothing. The way that I've found that works, at least in my situation, is just to add a bunch of white space after the command. So in this case, GS change 1, I've just added like 3 spaces afterwards, and I've found that that is enough to resolve it from ever running into that situation where it's not actually sent the entire message. It also doesn't interfere with the command itself. Final Fantasy XIV will absolutely disregard any white space after the command that you've typed in. So you can add like 100 lines of spaces afterwards and it will not care. So that's really useful for this situation. But things can be different for everyone. If you do find that commands aren't always sending in their entirety, try doing something like this. Maybe instead of having just enter checked here, you can uncheck it, add in a delay to the multi-action, and then add in a hotkey to press enter, so it just delays that enter a little bit further. Bit of trial and error, but once you've done one and you've got it working consistently, then you can just propagate that across everywhere else. Of course, I've also got emotes folders, so this one, for example, has a bunch of just different emotes that I will use on a regular basis. But again, this is another way you can just package all these common emotes away in a little folder on the StreamDeck, rather than having it occupy an entire hotbar and doing it that way. And I've also been doing the same thing for mounts. So I've got all my common mounts here, and same sort of thing. It just brings up the commands in chat, and then I just type out the command that we want to execute. So mount, in quotations, the mount that you want to get on, and then press enter and it'll summon that mount for you. So I could bring up my Lunar Whale and have a great time on it. I've also got a couple of just short keys or hotkeys set for opening the mount and minion screens themselves if I want to go into something that I haven't bound a key for. And this is just literally doing a hotkey like Control-O, which I've set to bring up the mount screen, for example. You'll probably notice by this point Final Fantasy XIV has so many different windows and menus that you can get into. They can be freaking hard to remember every single one of them and where they are. Man, there is so many of them and I always forget which menu has the window that I'm looking for. So if I've got all my common ones just in a little folder, that's a lot easier for me as well. I've also got a little chat folder here with chat like TYFP, good job everyone. Drop that at the end of every duty. Keep the positive vibes going, or maybe it's getting really that bad that you just got to drop the old sloppy text picture in. So I've got a lot of examples of using the single line commands in chat to do a bunch of actions. However, I am still using a few macros in some different places, and they are still very useful to have organized on the Stream Deck rather than occupying space on your HUD somewhere. One good example is in my little duty folder here. I've got this multi-action switch, and basically what it does is it's going between two different hotkeys, and this I have bound to two different macros. So one's called normal mode, one's called raid mode, and this is just a bunch of options that I like to set up when I'm raiding and doing, you know, high-end duties. This is just a way of having a very simple and elegant way of if you've got like two common setups that you like to switch between, then a macro works really, really well for this. And even better when you can just have one button on your Stream Deck to go that you just press and it can go between the two. It's really, really cool. I still don't get bored of it. So you can see here, whenever I press it, it'll say that I'm in raid mode, and then the next one is in normal mode. And again, all these icons you can very readily grab them off the Final Fantasy official websites or fan bases. Like they are floating around and are very easily to get hold of, which is really, really great. Anyway, that's pretty much all I had for Final Fantasy XIV with the Stream Deck that I've got so far. I will probably find a whole bunch of other things to do with it at some point or another and look into things further. Maybe you've got some ideas, and even you've got your own Stream Deck and you've been playing around with a few macros yourself. Leave them in the comments below, because they will be really, really useful for anyone else that's just wanting a bit of inspiration on how they can utilize this really cool piece of hardware to make their life a lot easier in 14 and clean up some of that hotbar bloat that we all tend to deal with. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.